The framework that is the Green New Deal obviously involves a lot of different issues, and it's already generating multiple pieces of legislation. Take a look at this video where Representative Ilhan Omar announces her new Green New Deal inspired housing plan.
One of the first things I noticed when I came to the United States were people sleeping on the side of the streets. And I have been on a mission ever since to make sure that there are no humans left in that situation. Today, I'm excited to introduce the Homes for All Act, which will fulfill the promise of a homes guarantee by building 12 million new public housing and private, permanently affordable rental units, fastly expanding the available affordable housing stock, driving down costs throughout the market, and creating a new vision of what public housing looks like in the United States of America. We will prohibit any discrimination against residents based on sexual orientation, gender, and criminal history or immigration status. The bill also creates a new anti-displacement fund with HUD in order to protect families from gentrification, prevent displacement, and stabilize neighborhoods. And it makes public housing a mandatory part of our budget, like Social Security and Medicare. All of this will be built to the highest environmental standards, making this a key part of the Green New Deal.
So that's a great video. We're gonna have a few details in just a second. Really fast, you might be thinking, wait, didn't Bernie and AOC come out with a Green New Deal public housing plan a week ago? And they did. It's not the same plan, it is complementary. That plan had more to do with upgrading existing stock of housing and providing some extra funding and things like that. This is more focused on actually increasing the raw number of units that are available to help get more people into a home. And so very complementary bills, they should both be passed. And this is a major issue that thankfully more and more politicians are taking seriously. At last night's debate, there were a couple of questions about housing. It's very common these days for presidential candidates to have that housing plan because they understand that for a lot of Americans, the idea of owning a home isn't just like a big hurdle, it's effectively impossible. I mean, I can say, I grew up, my parents never owned a home. I'm lucky enough that I'm doing in some ways better than them, but I live in LA. And so the idea that I could own a home is crazy. Like best case scenario, I could maybe find something an hour outside of the city and I'd probably be taking part in gentrifying an area to even do that. It's become effectively impossible for more and more people, and not just in cities in LA. Ilhan Omar has done a great job in some of her other communication around this bill in making clear that this is an increasing problem even in suburban and rural areas in the center of America. And so we need politicians with bold plans to deal with the increasing issues of housing, not only in the stock, but also the monopolies of real estate developers that are creating artificial scarcity to drive up prices. These are huge problems, and this is a big bill to help deal with that. Just a little bit more details on it. Her bill's dubbed the Homes for All Act. It outlines a plan to build 9.5 million new units of public housing at the cost of about $800 billion. The legislation earmarks $200 billion for a federal housing trust fund to build 2.5 million new affordable housing units available for low-income families. Another $200 billion would establish a community control and anti-displacement fund at the Department of Housing and Urban Development to provide grants to local governments to combat the effects of gentrification. And you saw in that video, she mentioned climate change. Like with the AOC Bernie public housing plan, this is a big part of dealing with climate change too. Real estate accounts for at least 12% of the planet heating emissions in the US. Some people estimate it could be as high as 39%. And so yes, we have to deal with transportation, energy production, those sorts of things, but housing is a very important part of that as well. And public housing, establishing new housing, would be a great way to do something about this. So great bill by Ilhan Omar. You can find out more details online. Just one other thing I want to say about this, as members of the squad, effectively all of whom they're new to politics. They're in their first year and a half of being congresspeople. They're doing so much, coming out with so many bills on like a bi-weekly basis. It makes me wonder, what the hell are other people in Congress doing with their time? There are people who have been in Congress for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, no bills to their name. I mean, I know technically we know what they're doing. They're spending 6 hours a day making calls to raise money for their reelection. But like, think about taking that weight off your shoulders and what you can do with that time. You can be putting together AOC's anti-poverty plan or her public housing plan. Ilhan Omar with this new bill. It takes a lot of time, a lot of research and resources, and you'll be freed up to do that sort of work and to get the accolades that you get rightfully for doing that kind of work if you get into office in the right way, with the right sort of funding. So anyway, good on Ilhan Omar, both in the way she campaigned and the way she's actually holding the office now. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.